Chapter 2. Shopping. The two ex-peacekeepers walk through the crowded streets of the spaceport shopping district. Will had no clothes to fit either of them on board the Ghost, and Maxim is eager to get out of his two sizes too small outfit. The first stop on their list is a clothier. The note attached to the map reads, "Don't get fancy. Love, Will." The shop isn't overly impressive, though it has a front door, which itself is quite an accomplishment for Fury. As soon as the two enter, the shopkeeper emerges from the back room. It is a small creature. Zephyr isn't really sure what race, but it's definitely bipedal, and has all the right body parts she expects in all the places she expects them, at least as far as she can see. "Hello there, travelers. You've come to the right place," it exclaims, suddenly revealing two sets of arms, all four of which wave emphatically. It looks them both up and down. "Don't we have our work cut out for us? I'm Mordo, owner of this fine establishment and master clothier." He points to Zephyr and then to one of the dressing rooms. "You, in there." Then to Maxim. "You, in that one. My, you're large. You know that's an extra fee for using so much fabric." 2 hours later, the two leave the shop and a waving Mordo with several bags under each arm, clad in entirely new outfits. Zephyr looks over at Maxim. "This might become difficult if each stop ends with so much merchandise, and clothes are likely the lightest of our purchases." Zephyr is not sure she's ever owned this many clothes, and they have spent less than 3/4 of what Will assigned to them. Maxim grunts his agreement. He looks left and right, then lets out an ear-splitting whistle, and a small cart bot comes trundling towards them. It stops a few paces away and opens a hatch in its cargo area. "Please place items inside the cargo area," it chirps. "Will this rental be a one-stop fare, or shall I follow you for more shopping?" The hatch closes and Maxim moves to place his thumb on the small biometric reader and stops suddenly looking at the bot. "Passcode only," he says. "No biometrics, and follow us. There'll be a few stops." The bot takes a moment, then replies, "That method is less secure. Please verbally accept the updated terms, then provide passcode." Maxim sighs. "I accept the updated terms. Your passcode is Terminus. Bravo 91844 Delta. End passcode." "Accepted," the bot replies. "Follow us." Maxim looks at Zephyr, smiling. She enjoys seeing him like this. It's so rare. He waves both hands at her. "See? Problem solved." Zephyr checks the pad, crossing off the first item on the list, clothes, and looks at the next item. Smiling, she holds the pad up for Maxim to see. He smiles too. Finally. They head off in the indicated direction to find a weapons dealer named Prux. Prux turns out to be an old and scarred Quillant who, aside from being an arms dealer, owes Will a favor or two. The two ex-peacekeepers are like children in a candy shop. They start in the front with the pistols and grenades, picking things up, holding them, aiming them. Some get put back on the wall, others into a small bin Prux is holding as she follows them around her shop. After the pistols and assorted small arms, they move on to rifles. And as Maxim puts it, the fun stuff. After an hour of happily grabbing weapons, comparing them against others, changing what's in the bin, and then changing them back again, Prux leads them to the back of the room. "I have something special," she says, "that I think just might be right for you." Meetings. Will walks confidently into the bar. At least, he thinks of it as a bar. It kind of looks like a TGI Fridays, except instead of tchotchkes everywhere, this place has small animal skins, weapons, and various bits of technology he can't readily identify. The crowd is what you'd expect at a shithole bar, near a shithole spaceport, on a shithole planet. As such, Will is armed, with his personal shield charged and ready to activate, at only a simple hand gesture. The place is dark, but it isn't hard to know where Zarax will be. He's usually in back, at a booth with the privacy screen active, two guards of unidentifiable race and gender standing ready on either side. Sure enough, straight back from the door, Will sees exactly that. He heads to the bar and makes eye contact with the barkeeper. "Give me a grum." He touches his wrist comm, sending the payment as the barkeeper hands him a glass of something that looks and tastes like a beer. Will has never figured out how grum is made or what it's made from. If he's honest with himself, he doesn't want to know, since real beer is nearly impossible to get without a trip home, and that's not high on his list of things to do anytime soon. He takes his drink to the back of the bar in the direction of the booth and the two goons. They watch him coming and don't move until he's right in front of the booth's privacy screen. Then they each take a step towards the middle, creating a wall of goon right in front of him. "Hi, goons," Will says cheerily. "He's expecting me." One of the goons lifts his wrist comm and whispers into it. Since the thing isn't speaking standard, it could have shouted. Will wouldn't have understood it any better. A few seconds pass, then something chirps on an earpiece. One goon looks at the other goon and nods. Without a word, they part, and the privacy screen fades away with a shimmer. Will slips into the booth. No sooner has he scooted to the middle of the bench than the privacy screen reactivates with a slight pop sizzle. He can still see out through the hazy energy barrier, but now no one can see in. He knows.
Well, well, if it isn't my favorite. What are you again?
The being across the table from Will, Zarax, is a Trinball, and a particularly ugly one at that. Standing about 2 meters tall with 2 arms, 2 legs, a prehensile tail, and a face like a velociraptor, the Arquillians are a pretty scary race. Most are pacifists. Zarax is not. Will had met him shortly after acquiring the ghost, when he needed some funds in his account, and he'd been happy to take whatever job Zarax needed doing. Some of them still woke Will up at night, even now. Will took a sip of his grum, never taking his gaze off Zarax. Arquillians have wide-set eyes, so looking one in the eyes is often impossible. Will chooses instead to stare at a spot in the center of the crime boss's head. "I'm a human, you ugly lizard." He smiles at the look of incomprehension on Zarax's face. "You have work?" Zarax shakes his head, making a combined hiss and clucking sound, which never fails to freak Will out.
I didn't think you were taking those types of jobs anymore.
"Well, since I was in the sector, I figured I'd say hello and check. I'm not looking for anything too out there, but I picked up some crew I could use an easy win to get the bank accounts back up to where I'm comfortable." Zarax makes a show of consulting his wrist comm as if he keeps a file called "Super Sketchy and Illegal Things to Hire Out for .txt" on it, then looks up at Will.
Well, you're in luck, my human friend. I do have something not too out there that might be just the right thing for you in that ship of yours.
The past. "Mission Control. This is Discovery 1, do you read?" Wil Calder, NASA astronaut, is looking at a dead console. "This is not good," he mutters before repeating his call. The mission had been going smoothly, with his small experimental space pod operating within all expected areas. The small revolutionary power plant was running. The energy-filled emitters were all properly charged leading up to the experiment, and the navigation settings were locked into the beacon orbiting Jupiter. So what had gone wrong? The pod is now drifting in empty space. Will can't see any planets anywhere, which might mean he was just past Earth or Jupiter or somewhere in deep space. If he can just get the power plant rebooted. It had scrammed when whatever it was had happened. Then that'd be a start in figuring out where he was. The navigation system is, in theory, so advanced it can pick out his location just by comparing the visible stars until it finds a familiar constellation. But that has only been tested in limited ways back home, so... Unfortunately, NASA opted to send a moderately smart, but very skilled pilot on this first mission, instead of an engineer or physicist or astronomer. All of which are skills that would be valuable right about now. "Okay, here we go," Will mutters to the pod, as he wiggles around in his seat to get access to the small hatch into the reactor compartment. He silently crosses his fingers that he doesn't have a spacewalk. I hate spacewalks, he thinks to himself. Discovery 1 was never designed to be worked on in situ, but certainly allowances had been made given the unknowns. Will hadn't thought much about it before, but he is happy for all those allowances now, wriggling around in the cramped access space behind his seat. He is fussing with a component when something clicks, and boom, lights start coming back on. Mission control, he says quickly. This is Discovery 1, transmitting in the blind. I've got the reactor restarted and am waiting for it to complete its spin-up cycle before I try any other systems. Will knows this broadcast is likely a waste of time, and possibly error if he can't get the scrubbers up and running, but it's policy. Apparently it has helped astronauts in this situation to stay sane longer. Will has his doubts, but he follows protocols. The console in front of him beeps, then one by one, lights and displays stay to wake up. It's so good to see you all, Will says, slapping the console. I hope you have good news for me. Within minutes, the entire pod is back online, reactor at 100%, life support at 100%, navigational sensors at 100%, maneuvering thrusters at 100%, FTL field generator offline. Shit! Will punches the console with the FTL field generator controls on it. Well, hell. Mission control, this is Discovery 1. All systems have successfully rebooted, except one. The FTL field generator seems to be offline. I'm going to try and restart it again, see if it's just a software bug. I honestly don't know what I'll do after that. 2 reboots later, and the computer still reports that the highly experimental device, designed to create an energy field around the ship to propel it faster than light, is offline. Over 100 automated drone tests had gone perfectly, all the way to Jupiter and back. This is only the second manned attempt, and Will is now adrift somewhere around the orbit of Neptune, very far from Jupiter. He's tried all the diagnostics he can from inside the pod. It might be spacewalk time, to get out and check the exterior of the pod. It's difficult to imagine something is wrong out there. There's been no collisions, and technically the FTL field generator had worked the first time, since it got him here to the outer edge of the solar system. But what else is there to do? Sit here and do nothing? Will knows no rescue is coming. At least with life support working, he's able to cycle air out of the cockpit and store it, versus having to lose it, which would mean opening the pod to space. Unfortunately, that's as far as the good news goes. The pod is fine. All the emitters are where they should be, and look undamaged. Well, shit. Will stands on the pod, his magnetic boots holding him on its surface. There's nothing to see in any direction but stars. There are worse views, that's for sure, he says, debating whether it'd be better to die standing here atop his crippled craft, or go back inside and have a few more days of life with the rations and life support system running. Tough call. He climbs back into the pod and closes the hatch. At least for now, he's not completely without hope. But there's still time to change his mind, of course. Clean slates. The last stop on their shopping trip is the one Zephyr has been dreading ever since they left the ship. They're standing in front of what might be considered a storefront, except there's nothing to indicate that it's open for business or ever has been. And a lot to indicate, or at least trying to suggest, that it's presently abandoned. But the address is on Will's map, so this must be the place. She looks around, then knocks on the door. After a minute, she knocks again. Still nothing. Looking at the pad, she sees a note from Will attached to this entry. Knock 3 times, then 2 times, then 5 times. Oops, did it wrong. She looks up at Maxim, then knocks the pattern in the file. She shrugs. The door opens a crack. It's dark inside the store. Who are you? A high-pitched voice says, from about Maxim's waist level. Will, Maxim, what did he say his last name was? Wait, I remember. Calder.
Wil Calder sent us. He's a human. Says he knows you.
The door opens wider. Come in, then. A small 3-fingered hand waves them in. As soon as the door closes, the lights come on, slowly, so it's not too blinding. But Zephyr immediately sees that they're standing in an anteroom behind the storefront. One that's apparently well protected. The fields she can see shimmering are far more powerful looking than just privacy screens. Behind the door is a small creature, green, about a meter in height, wearing a multi-pocketed jumpsuit with various tools tucked in here and there. Brelak, she thinks their race is called. So, what do you want? The creature asks, walking back towards one of the screens, which shimmers as he passes through it. I'm busy. The field stays powered down, so Zephyr and Maxim follow, finding themselves in a workshop. Screens and wrist comms are lying everywhere in various states of disassembly. Parts from things Zephyr can't identify cover most of the workbench surface.
We need new identities, she says. New wrist comms, the works.
You got credits? The small creature hops up on a stool in front of a bank of monitors. The works ain't cheap, and there's no bulk discount. Zephyr accesses the section of the pad marked for this part of their shopping trip and sends the funds.
We'll need our records completely wiped, everywhere, even in Peacekeeper datasets.
You came to the right guy then. I can do it. It'll take about a talk. You can wait over there. The creature points to what looks like an attempt at making a comfortable lounge. Zephyr catches Maxim's grimace. One at a time, they are asked over to the bank of consoles and displays to rest their palm on a reader. They have no idents. The Partherians had taken them. Whoa, you two are in some deep dren. Wil is certainly hanging around interesting company these days. Partherians and peacekeepers? Grolak. That's a lot of trouble. The creature looks up from his array of screens. Wil hooked you up. Ben Ari is the best. Zephyr assumes he means himself. You have wrist comms? He holds out his tiny green hand.
No, sorry. We'll need new ones. Wil rescued us from a Partherian battleship. All we had on us was the jumpsuits they put us in. The funds we just transferred should be sufficient.
When the small being looks like he's about to start negotiating, Maxim does his best grimacing growl. Fine. Go pick out what you want from the fabricator. Ben Ari waves his hand towards the opposite corner of the room. The fabricator is an older model, but it's still loaded with plenty of designs. Maxim picks out one that is as close to a military design as he can get, all angles and bulkiness. He places his arm in the scanning area and watches as a beam of light passes up and down his forearm. Zephyr selects a more sleek design, contoured to her forearm. From across the room, Ben Ari says only, "Excellent choices." Then he gets back to work.